Different industries are being affected by the COVID-19 pandemic and the lockdown in different ways. One sector that sees us both having a big industry here and facing a problem of imports from other countries is our chicken and poultry industry. Izaak Breitenbach is the General Manager of the SA Poultry Association's Broiler organisation, joining us now via Skype. Izaak, good afternoon to you. Firstly, are your members actually able to operate as they normally do at the moment? Are they able to farm chickens?
Stephen, I think that the first one is that our core duty is to supply food, and we need to supply food at a competitive price. And we've been able to do that up until now.
You're able to do it up until now. Are you expecting any problems in your supply chains? Are you able to get the chicken feed? I think it's mealie meal of the meal of some kind. Are you able to do all of that? There's been no problems with that supply chain so far.
I think if the ban carries on, the very first thing is that 20% of our supply chain is closed, and there I refer to the quick service restaurant businesses and also the catering businesses. Now, what that causes is that we overproduce. We sit with product in storage. The price of chicken is going down, and we need to keep this industry going. This industry is a national asset for us in this time of difficulty. So the last thing the industry wants to do is to downsize.
Okay, so if you just, like other industries, you just don't have enough demand, what's going to happen? I mean, at what point are some of the chicken producers just not going to be able to make any money? I mean, there'll be marginal chicken producers who aren't able to make money with demand this low and with the price of chicken this low.
I think we must look a little bit wider. And if we look wider, we look at the international chicken supply. With the exchange rate deteriorating the way that it will have a huge impact on our feed bill. Secondly, the demand in South Africa will drop, but we will also probably see a reduction in imports. And because of the exchange rate, but also because companies in Brazil have scaled down on production and some plants in America have been closed. So it is really important to keep our own chicken production going for food security.
I mean, the impact of a lockdown on your industry is immense. I mean, I read in the United States, for example, just because one big sporting event did not happen, it was the final of a basketball event, the demand for chicken wings fell through the floor. I mean, you're actually incredibly vulnerable to this.
Absolutely, we are. We supply absolutely certain products to the quick service restaurant trade or the fast food restaurant chain. That is closed now. So what we are currently selling is a huge change in product mix. We sell more frozen products, more cut-up products, and that goes into the retail chain. But in the retail chain, we have not seen the pickup in chicken demand that we've expected, simply because people can't afford it at the moment.
If the lockdown is extended tonight, and we don't know yet if it will be, but we might find, for example, social events. I mean, restaurants aren't going to operate at full capacity for ages. Spur basically said even if the lockdown ends tonight, they're not going to reopen because of the way because of social distancing. It just doesn't make sense at this stage. So there are going to be all sorts of changes. Do you think that there is going to be a resizing of the industry no matter what you might want?
I think what we expect to happen is if we do a look at the government's risk analysis, we will see that a government has put restaurants and quick service restaurants as high-risk areas. So we don't expect, although we would like that to open, we don't expect that those restaurants will open quick enough for us. What we are looking for is the assistance government has given us in terms of grants, in terms of tax breaks, in terms of assisting consumers to buy more product. I think there's a big market channel that we ignore, and that is the livestock market. That market was closed for a period of time. Government has now opened that, and that is putting product into the rural areas, the areas where the poorest of the poor people are, and also the areas that are not serviced by our retail and wholesale outlets.
The issue of chicken imports, now it's a long-running issue. What we have, as I understand it, and I realize there are lots of interpretations of what happens with chicken imports, but Brazil produces chicken. It sells what's called the white meat, so the breast meat, to the North American and the European market, because that's the kind of meat that they prefer there. Then what's called the brown meat which is often the sort of wings and the thighs and the legs, they sell those here. Because they make their money in other countries, they actually sell it here below cost. It's called dumping in sort of trade policy. Are those imports still coming here during this time? Is that still causing trouble for you at the moment? Or have they sort of downscaled their production so dramatically that those imports have stopped?
Stephen, no. The import numbers for February 2020 is still higher than it is for February 2019. So the dumping hasn't stopped. And we have proven dumping against America and 3 European countries already. We've done preliminary studies for dumping against Brazil, and we've also done preliminary studies against 5 more countries in Europe that is still dumping. And I think the classic definition of dumping is really the important one. And that is that they sell the product in their countries at a much higher price, sometimes 300% higher than South Africa. So they reduce our prices and keep their prices stable.
Izaak Breitenbach, thanks very much indeed. I thought you might have a strong view on that. The General Manager for the SA Poultry Association's Broiler organisation. Some news coming